So thank you everyone for joining us here at the Rosen Center and virtually for our Women in HPC presentation featuring two amazing women that I'm honored to know and call my friends, Suzanna Gardner and Rebecca Sharples. So I also want to give a huge thank you to Delia, Suzanna's mom, who is visiting here from Uzbekistan, who fixed all of the wonderful food out there. So Suzanna Gardner, a trailblazing figure from Uzbekistan, shattered barriers in both athletics and academia. As the first woman from her country to earn a medal at the 1999 Asian Judo Championship, she showcased her dedication by achieving a third-degree black belt. With a master's in international affairs and leadership from Arizona State University, she brings a multifaceted perspective to her endeavors. Susanna excels in male-dominated arenas, from her judo career to owning a gym in Texas and later becoming a head strength conditioning coach, as well as her role here at Purdue and the Rosen Center for Advanced Computing. Leveraging these experiences, she empowers individuals, transcending gender barriers and inspiring collective achievement. Dr. Rebecca Sharples earned her bachelor's degree in business administration in 2001, a master's degree in information systems in 2003, and in 2023, a doctorate in education with a focus on learning and organizational change. Her diverse experience spans IT, finance management, and education. She also managed a glass art business for 3.5 years while focusing on family. At Purdue University's Data Mine, she served as Managing Director of Academic Programs and Outreach for over 2 years before prioritizing personal goals, including family time, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coaching, art, and home renovation projects. So please welcome Suzanna and Rebecca.
Well, thank you. So this will be our love. We decided to name it Love Story because I love her, she loves me, so that only makes sense. And the plan is to be together forever. So we will share our personal stories, our educational background, and importance of, I guess, women in STEM and other industries. I am obviously I don't come from STEM, so I am passionate about women in general in any field. And so we will kind of go over how can we support women around us. Well, that's me. So who am I? As you can see, there's two love of my lives. This one was first love of my life, right? And then Amari showed up and he's slightly like sitting on top of my husband. So I am super fortunate to have him as my partner in life who can handle my craziness because there's nothing normal about me. And then my mother, who was one of the most inspiring, going through all kinds of shit, coming from all kinds of places and still flourishing, building a business, buying real estate and doing all these things that women don't do. They just sit home normally and raise babies, but she did it all. She fed us like this daily. She ran her business, she did all. So my husband is a naval officer, so he's much younger there. I don't know, hey, there he is. So I was born in Azerbaijan in a small village, probably 5 hours of crazy road to the village from the capital city. Predominantly, Azerbaijan is predominantly a Muslim country, but I was born in the times of Soviet Union where religion didn't exist. Everyone was the same. But the culture stayed, right? So it's not, you can take religion sort of practices out, but the culture still stays. So, and the village is bordered with Georgia. It's very close to Georgia. So most people in my village are Georgian / Azerbaijani. So, but my grandmother was Georgian, so I'm half Georgian, half Azerbaijani. So my first language was Georgian. And we moved around, I was 6, 7, 8 when we moved to Uzbekistan. So that's a country that I was raised. I call that place my home because most of my memories were from Uzbekistan. Also predominantly Muslim country. But it, again, just goes back to part of Soviet Union, so the same story about Azerbaijan that I just mentioned, it's similar to Uzbekistan. So that's where I moved not knowing the language, so I had to learn completely new language. And then I had to learn Russian because I went to Russian school. So my studies were in Russian fully. My dad decided that so when I moved to Uzbekistan, I couldn't, communicate with kids. So one of the ways I would tell them to kind of F off is by punching them, fighting them. I couldn't use my words yet. And my dad was like, well, looks like you could use this somewhere. So he put me in judo, and somehow I magically did okay, and I loved it. And continued that journey with the sport, and fell in love out of necessity. I never wanted to do judo. It happened. I was good. I was good at it, and then allowed me to travel, meet people, get education, do all these things. So I was like, okay, it looks like I am good at this. I'm just gonna do it because it will open the doors, kind of. That's where I am. So most people fall in love with sport. I love sport. I love judo. I love wrestling, but it was never like I'm gonna do this. If I had a perfect life with no challenges, I probably wouldn't do sports, to be honest. Like in terms of like competitive, because it's so much effort, so much time, and stress level and all that. But I knew it would just get me out of the situation where I was. I was told not to do this because I'm a girl. I'm supposed to, follow the rules. I don't follow the rules, and especially the ones were created to trap women in their place. They were told to be silent. My culture, when I go back, it's still the same. I'm not like the unicorn who just like didn't listen and did what she wanted to do. And it seems to me like that worked for me, and I continue that journey. And again, when I talk about I don't follow rules, I mean rules where you just become nothing or nobody, right? So obviously I do follow law. I don't want to be in prison because I just can't make it there. But in general, like women were told, my mom or my sister and my aunts, like just, sit in your place, and men rule the world. And I was told not to do sports because I'm a girl and need to be like polite and whatnot. So that didn't work. I just continued, and I somehow magically did what I did, and it just like, okay, I can do this because I literally can do this. So I don't want to keep bragging more. So I'm gonna because we will cover more of the things in like future slides. That's me. That's her. She does handstands. I don't. So I'm like, that's you.
So, who am I? I'm a hodgepodge of a lot of things. Things I am, things I want to be, things I strive to be, but may never. This is my husband, Craig. He's from South Africa. He moved to the States 2 years before we met. My 3 kids, who most of you in this room have met. And then there's me doing what I love the most, which is smashing other women. Even though my passion is to help and empower women, I also love smashing them. It's great.
So they get better.
So I'm originally from Houston. I was born there. When I was 13, we moved to Connecticut. I did college in Rhode Island, back to Connecticut, Houston. Then I met Craig. We moved to New Jersey, then back to Houston, and now here we are in Indiana. So we've moved around a lot. I come from not a place of fortune, right? And so we'll get into it later. My motivations really stemmed from a combination of seeing what my mother went through. My parents were 6. I was 6 when my parents split. And seeing the struggles that my mom as a single mom went through, the financial struggles that my family on both sides went through, and then not wanting to repeat that same cycle for myself. And again, we'll get into that, but my husband and Suzanna, I mean, they've been really a foundation for me, a rock. I'm very, if y'all know me well, many of you do, I'm like very volatile, and they're both very emotionally available for me, and so it's really
changed my life, and my kids are obviously the most important thing to me. I mean, there's one, I want to say person, she's not a person, but who's not up here and should be, Frida. But that's for another day.
That's her dog.
Yeah. So it was a long time ago when I did college, and then, my career, I've been very ambitious. And it's not because I want to be, the leader of all things or the boss of all things or anything like that. It's mostly because I want to continue to be my better self every single day. I want to push the limits of what I can do. Yes. Anyways, that's me. So at some point I'll figure out what I want to be when I grow up. I still don't know. My clicker doesn't work. Okay. So some of the things we want to talk to you about today are actually grounded in peer-reviewed research and facts, not just, we stand up here and talk about our lives and we have a good time and we think we're pretty funny sometimes, but in reality, women across the world, women in STEM particularly, they experience challenges that others do not experience. Globally, and I didn't put it up here, but globally, as of 2023, women across the world hold 77% of the same legal rights as men. And that's a statistic by the World Bank, which is a leading research foundation in the entire world. So there's still a lot of work to do. At the current rate of progression globally, it'll take about 50 years for women to get to the same level of legal rights as men, which is a huge problem. It's a huge, huge problem. So some of the reasons that getting women more involved in STEM, for those of you who aren't in STEM, it means science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Obviously, reducing the gender pay gap. Right now, women, and this is for women who don't stay at home and who work full-time, the same jobs as men, they make 83.7 cents on the dollar as men in the United States. So reducing the gender pay gap, specifically, not just the percentage that women are making as compared to men, but also getting more women working in jobs, focused in jobs that are just higher paying, right? Women a lot of times are funneled into careers that are lower paying jobs. And we perpetuate this cycle of holding women as a whole back and putting them into this box that it's really difficult to get out of. So, and the pay gap contributes to the poverty gap, right? When you think about, I don't actually know if I have it on another slide, but when you think about women in the United States, 40% of all births in 2021 were to unwed mothers, right? Legally, men are not, unless they're on the birth certificate or the women take them to court to establish paternity, the men are not legally obligated to pay for any prenatal care, any labor and delivery costs. And it amounts to I do think I have it on the slide, $4.2 billion annually that single mothers are incurring that men are not. That's a lot of money. So anyways, bringing women into STEM and really being aggressively proactive, you bring new innovation, you bring ideas. We're literally missing a huge portion of the population that we're just not getting ideas from. So we really, I think the two of us want to change the narrative. We want to break the cycle. We want to empower and help women, and not just in the United States, around the world, in Central Asia, and in any of these countries where women do need more help, break that cycle, right? This whole I can be what I can see, it's real. it's really real. And if young girls don't see women in those positions, it's very difficult to imagine them being in that. My daughter literally said to me a month or so ago that she will never be president because women aren't presidents. Like, it killed me. Okay.
And that's your kid.
That's my, yeah.
Who hears you all day.
All
every
I do
day.
is, I mean, my husband makes fun of me for how like much I don't stop.
This is the stats.
So yeah, so here's just some more high level statistics. You guys can read them for yourselves, but like overwhelmingly, we have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of women graduating in STEM. You know, I think people do forget about the fact that there's a large portion of women who go through college and then their plan is to go and stay home, and that's fine. Like, I don't think our goal is to make anybody do anything they don't want to do, right? For some women, that's right for them, and that's totally fine. But we have to account for that when we're taking into account, like, okay, we want 50% of all the women to be in STEM. Well, there's quite a few women in that percentage that are going to go and stay home. So then you're still behind the bar. You're constantly trying to catch up. So we need to take that into account when we're trying to think of ways to empower women and increase the numbers of women in STEM and male-dominated industries. And just for the record, AIAN is American Indian Alaskan Natives, in case anybody was wondering what that means. So just another slide on statistics. It was 1991 when Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, among a whole bunch of other countries, were all part of the USSR, and then they became independent countries. So you have this interesting kind of dichotomy of the original culture and the religious influence, right? And then you had the Soviets come in and impose their will on these people, and then it was all dissolved. And like, what happens then? Not just with culture and religion, but with social customs and also with social programs, right? There's a lot to be, obviously I didn't live in the Soviet Union, but when the Soviet Union was intact, they did have social programs that benefited women in terms of being able to go to college and being able to have childcare so they can go and work, regardless of what the motives were for the Soviets. So it's complicated, right? It's complicated to really delve into what women have gone through in all these different countries. So in the United States, women were granted the right to vote in 1920, but it wasn't until 1965 that women of color were allowed to vote. And so, and please know that when I say women of color, that's a very complicated term. Yes, I'm talking about Black and African American women, but I'm also talking about women who just don't look white, or their culture isn't like Western European, right? It's not, it's a complicated issue, and it's not black and white. So just bear that in mind. Right to education, same thing, 1972 and 1974. 1972 was the act that prevented schools can't discriminate based on sex, and then 1974 was based on race. Race was the one. Yeah. So the last thing I want to mention is the pink tax is alive and well. I only put that, and I have a ton of, so we have a ton of references at the end of this slide deck. You're welcome to look them up yourselves. But the pink tax, if you haven't heard of it, is that products made for women tend to cost a lot more than products made for men. If you just go into the grocery store and look at razors, pink rate, the exact same razor is significantly marked up, right? Women who have to have tampons and pads pay tax on it, right? Like haircuts for women. Even if the dude's hair is long and the woman's hair is short, it's still more expensive. And it's not one or two or three things. It's like, in general, consumer products are more expensive for women. But we also incur more debt, right? We have lower credit ratings because we're at a high risk factor. So it's a big cycle that perpetuates itself because we're not doing enough about it.
Is that me?
This is you.
Okay. So impact on diversity. Obviously, I don't have to go, you can read what it says, but I did make some notes that research repeatedly demonstrates that leadership, this is diversity foster. Okay, I just don't want to confuse. Repeatedly demonstrates that diverse teams are more innovative and creative. So having more women or any different culture, it doesn't have to be just women, people from another culture, different language speaking, like mine is English is a fifth kind of language. So include me in the conversation. I might have some new perspective or new ideas. Some of it could be a little bit out there because that's kind of how I live my life. It worked for me and then could be outrageous in some points, but I think it's okay to hear my voice, right? And anybody else's. And let people to have these voices. So there are people who are not very much vocal in the meetings. Like just get to know people, like and include them in those conversations. Let them have that voice and like bring them in with, hey, I would love to hear your opinion or something. So we need to be their allies of people who don't speak up. And it's frightening because they were told not to. And I told my husband, I'm ready to lose my job any day. Any day. And not because I love what I do, but it's just like, I know what's more important to me, the people I work with, that who I sort of a day-to-day activities. So I feel respected. I'm in, and then I can do any work. Just throw anything at me. So, and companies who have female CEOs happens to be make more money. So why don't we do that? Like, I mean, it's just, it would only make sense. We capitalist country, we want more money. We want that. And we need to include women into these conversations. So, and then as Rebecca put that there, that women consistently score higher on the leadership surveys. Because we somehow give a shit more, I don't know. Maybe that's the reason. And we had to think differently than just, when everything is given to you. Even privileged women think differently than someone who had to climb the ladder, right? So, but we do need to hear both voices. Is that still me? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, this one is interesting because I kind of, no, that's a call for action. No, that's you.
Okay,
Yeah.
just real quick too, I'm gonna pass this around. This is my dissertation.
Oh, we didn't even say what's happening.
I know.
Yeah. Go ahead, you
So-
start. Yeah, you do it.
I finished my doctorate this past August, and the premise of my research, a lot of it was based on women, but I basically wrote Suzanna's story. So this book is all about her life. The actual title of it is I have to read it too. A young woman of color's transnational lived experiences through an intersectional feminist lens, a qualitative narrative inquiry. Intersectionalism, that basically means that if you are, so for example, Suzanna is female. She is a woman of color, right? She's not a white woman from Western Europe. She's experienced a different culture. But say she's also deaf or blind, say she's part of the LGBT community, for example. I'm making stuff up, but like every single one of those attributes that carries with it an oppression from society, it doesn't just double or triple the effect of oppression that the woman experiences, it actually compounds it in an exponential way. And so the premise of my research was around how all of those factors kind of exacerbate themselves and make make life hard, right? And like, how did she overcome, how did she deal with opportunities, and how did she overcome the challenges that she experienced? So I'm just gonna pass this around, and if you wanna see some cutesy pictures of Suzanna when she was little bitty, they're in there, so.
Oh, man. So we
That's-
didn't even, yeah, I think we just missed the opportunity to say why and how we kind of came together. I met Rebecca, I don't know how many years ago.
Over 8 years ago.
Yes, so we met in Houston, which is Katy, Texas. If I have to describe Katy, Texas, think of Orange County in California. Super bougie, people drive Bentleys. I had a client who would fly on a helicopter because he didn't want traffic from Houston. So that kind of crowd. And running a business, it's like everyone wants to like buddy buddies and, you know, these stay-home moms, you know, have money to throw around. I don't play that game, so I don't give a shit. So I was just, you know, the way I am. Another thing, it was like super religious. They would ask me the kind of church I go to, and I'd be like, I don't go to church, you know? And they're like, how? You know, so that's Katy, Texas. And then I had a client, another coach, so I was working with her. She was amazing. She is amazing. She's not dead. She's amazing. So she says, hey, I have, you know, Rebecca, she would like to train with you. And I said, oh, please, no, I can't. I can't do this Katy Moms anymore, right? I don't know her. But in my mind, that's how I imagined. She says, no, I swear she's not like that. I would pre-select who I work with because I don't want to give my soul to devil. I want to be happy. I want to give you all I have. I want to enjoy what I do. And that's like basically, I want to make sure my internal balance is there before I share myself with others. So anyways, I met her and it was, you know, she was nothing like that, obviously. And then I met her, worked professionally with her, and then slowly it just became what it is. Because I don't ever like strive to have friends in terms of, I don't look for them, I don't need them. Like, I don't have that desire to make friends. And to me, it has to be organic. I don't force myself on people. I definitely don't want them to force on me. And so it was so organic and natural. And then I moved away and she came to visit and so on and so forth. That's how we, and then she says, listen, I'm gonna go get my doctorate. Want to write things about you. I'm like, what, crazy? What, there's nothing, I didn't do shit. I didn't do anything. She's like, no, do you know you? So you tell the story on your side, because that's kind of my perspective. So how did you decide that I'm on your subject?
Well, I met Susie and I was like, okay, she doesn't know yet, but we're gonna be friends.
Yep, that's what happened.
Yeah, no, I think it was one of those, like, I would definitely say like I'm a people pleaser. I don't generally like to let people down, and I think that comes from this like innate fear of rejection and a lot of my own issues from my upbringing and whatnot. But Suzanna was one of those people that as soon as I met her, she just empowered me, right? And there's very few people in my life that I've felt like she was empowering me for a reason other than her own personal gain. It's really rare to find people like that. And so I was drawn to that, right? Because I feel like in my life, a lot of the people who I have, like, especially when I was younger, built relationships with for whatever reason they needed or wanted something from me. And I've always been the giver. And so to not be that person in somebody else's life and know that they just cared about me because I don't even know why, right? Like, it's meaningful. But I also, over all of the time we had spent together, had heard a lot of Suzanna's stories and a lot of her experiences. And it was really powerful to hear. I mean, I'm just on an academic level, I find it very fascinating when to think about like how people who come up through adversity and then they thrive, like how does that even happen, right? Like because it could go the other way, right? There are a lot of people that come up through adversity and they're in jail or, they're on the streets or whatever. And like, how does that happen? And I'm also passionate about empowering women in general. And so when we were asked to come up with ideas for our dissertation topics and what we were going to do research on, and it was in the spirit of education, right? Like that's what my doctorate's in. In my mind, I'm like, how can I marry up like her life, which I think when you think about somebody's dissertation, if you don't know, you should know that you're going to be so saturated with that one topic that you're going to just be vomiting that topic for like months.
You sure did.
And I wanted to make sure that whatever I picked was interesting to me, because a lot of people picked super boring topics. I mean, like education can be interesting, but there's a lot of parts of it that are extremely boring. And some of my peers really regretted these topics, like they're meaningful and powerful, but they're not very interesting. And for me, I was like, how am I going to get several hundred hours into this research and still want to finish it, right? Like I want to be able to finish at the end because I do a lot. I'm like, my bathroom is almost done, right? Like for 9 months, it's almost done. Because I get like almost to the
Every
finish
time
line
I
and
get
I
a
don't.
picture of her bathroom, I'm like, almost done.
I bite off a lot and that I can't chew, right? And I get almost to the finish line and I don't finish things. And so I'm like, it's got to be something interesting. And so, and I recognized in Suzanna, like how powerful her presence is and the impact she makes on the world. And I wanted to take that story and publicize it in a way that could help other people. And so that's why, I had brought up the topic of doing the research and we're digressing from here, but it's all an important part of how all this kind of evolved and, right. Yeah, so here we are. So just some of the bigger barriers, I'm getting back to the presentation, some of the bigger barriers and challenges that women do face, obviously stereotyping, gender bias, a lot of it is subconscious. It's things that you don't, like people don't even realize they're doing. How many women in here in the last 12 months has a man told them to smile? Like, oh, like, get out of here with that.
Charlotte has a story.
How about you smile? How about you smile? I need to hear it. But just the lack of role models, right? My husband, he's in a leadership position at a big public accounting firm, right? And we had this conversation maybe, I don't know, this past summer, and he was talking about there was this woman at his company who was in a position of power and she wasn't doing a very good job. And she was a minority female. And it was at Mardi Gras. We were in New Orleans, actually. I remember exactly what street we were on because I was so mad. And I'm like that is so like, and it was such a good conversation for the both of us because I was able to really hear his perspective as a white male as to like where his thought process was coming from. And he was able to hear my perspective as a woman who thinks it's a load of baloney, right? Like, and so it was very good for us both as, I don't want to say intellectuals. I want to say like humans talking about a topic that is interesting, as well as just a married couple kind of bickering, right? Like it was a good conversation. And so being able to have role models, girls are able to then strive to be that. Like, how are you going to ever want to be president of the United States if it's never happened before? Like, and you're being brought up in an environment where like, girls, families with this isn't made up stuff. None of the stuff in this presentation is made up. It's all based on peer-reviewed research that's in my dissertation. Families with female children, they don't save as much money as families with male children on the whole. So these girls graduate from college with more debt. And because they have more debt, they have higher risk ratings, they have lower credit scores, they make less than males do, 83.7 cents on the dollar, right? It's just, we're like perpetuating this cycle, and it's makes me mad, by golly.
I'd like to add to up 4 and 3. So the specifically in my former country, they don't even get any debt because they don't go to college because they don't have money. There's no option to go get money, go to college. You just families with female children don't get to go to college. I mean, girls don't because it's expensive. And the part when with Soviet Union, I'm just going to go back a little bit, education was free and women were encouraged to be engineers, doctors, and all of those things. We had, in the World War II, we had 7 female pilot fighters, or whatever they call them, people who throw bombs. And that was Soviet Union, because we needed to use every single brain that we have, right? So that's kind of a communist way. Everyone needs to participate in the economy. So when that changed, right? So everything goes back to quote unquote the traditions and norms that they're used to. Girls didn't go to college because they barely would finish high schools, because then it doesn't matter, you're gonna get married and then have babies and stay home. So the boys would go to college and have a college degree. And then obviously that stays, you stay with someone who's abusive, you have nowhere to go. And families be like, you just have to kind of, figure out, be nice or something. Even families of this young woman wouldn't be on her side. They wouldn't just support her, which is kind of a bullshit. And I grew up seeing that. And I just knew, I was like, okay, it sounds like I'll never be married, because why would I need this?
Yeah.
I'm okay, no children, no marriage, I can do this. I was making money, I was traveling the world, like, why do I need a dude? Like, I don't need a dude, I'll be okay. And then, so for the lack of role models, I do have a friend who is a first woman who actually put Kyrgyzstan, it's another country, also predominantly Muslim, on the map for women wrestling. She's exceptional. She is one of a kind, historically, out of all the women wrestlers, older, the ones, from before I met, she's one of the toughest mentally. And so she has girls who can, I want to be like her. Like, because of her, their president built the whole facility equipped with everything, sponsored every way for girls only. And that's because of one person. So as she mentioned, it's important. It is. I didn't know anybody. All my coaches were male. All people who did things were dudes, and I didn't know that's possible. But somehow I just knew I don't want to be like everybody else. Other girls, I would want to ride the bikes. I would swim. That I did things that girls didn't do. It was fun. So. So yeah, that's just wanted to kind of. So the current president of Uzbekistan did change that. Everything started changing with him on board. He has funds available for girls only to study at any university in the world, also in Uzbekistan, if you could apply and get in and so on and so forth. So, and that helps so many families. But the problem with that is nobody knows. Nobody knows that exists, right? If you're in a village somewhere, not in a capital city, you just have other responsibilities, other things. So that's kind of next step. We're talking about what we're gonna do. We'll probably continue. Let's move on. We'll never finish this today. Oh my goodness, it's me. No, it's you. Strategies. No, I'm call for action.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things we definitely wanted to do was just to highlight some areas where you all can get involved, and that'll be this call to action on the next slide. But in general, there are higher level strategies that are important. And it's not just at an individual level. Like, we need to figure out how university hiring companies, how do you increase targeted enrollment numbers, especially with states right now like Texas, where they're totally getting rid of DE&I. Like, it's crazy to me. So we need to, first and foremost, be out there voting, right? Like, whatever your political and religious ideology is, like, get out there and vote so that our voices are heard. Because the people we vote for make decisions. Some of them making smart decisions, and some of them are making really selfish, stupid decisions. So, you know, increasing federal grants and scholarships, getting on these panels with the National Science Foundation, right? Or the National Health, whatever the one is. What's the other one? I can't remember. I've forgotten all. Ever since I left the data mine, I've forgotten. I don't even check email anymore. It's great.
The important foundations, basically, which is,
You know, these federal agencies that are really making decisions as to where the money's gonna go. We gotta get on these panels, and we have to advocate for women and diversity, not just women, but people that are diverse. Updating K through 12 curriculum, like how do we get girls engaged in STEM, right? Girls Who Game, that's something that it's around, and it's nationally, it's a program put out by Dell. And any elementary school, it's an after-school program, girls get involved in gaming and programming within the gaming. That's something that individuals can do. I actually last year had approached my daughter's teacher, she's got her doctorate in education as well, and she has taught computer science at the 5th and 6th grade level. So we had talked about potentially starting up Girls Who Game here at Klondike. And so just little things like that to make a difference in a couple people's lives is huge. And then how do we promote exemplars of successful women? Right? Write a dissertation on somebody.
she did the work.
You know,
I just lived my life. Did my thing and she did the work.
So, but like highlight those women, right? Just because you highlight somebody else does not make you less. Like there is room at the table for all of us, not just all of us women, but all of us who are diverse. And not diverse, like everybody, there's room for everybody. So highlight those people, let's build each other up. It's a really powerful.
That's me now. So call for action. So I want to kind of go into when I was doing my grad school, you know, we had a leadership class or something, either applied leadership or something. So I took the class, you know, it was fine. Got an A, of course, obviously. And then we had another, I think, final semester. It was a much more difficult leadership class. I don't remember the title. But and what happened was, I went through this class and we go over these people who did amazing things in the world, and none of them were women. I was like, I want to see one female in the curriculum, like that did a thing and we studied and wrote a paper on it, you know. So I kind of emailed the whole, whoever the decision-making people are.
President of the university.
I don't know, just collect all the emails, and I just wrote probably several pages of email. I wanted to stay short, but it just didn't happen. I just kept going. That cat, you know, meme cat. And so I kind of said, hey, this is, just to summarize, I'm not gonna read the whole email. Where are the women? I'm a woman, I do things. There are other women, and I know women who do things. I need to see that in there, and kind of like a very polite, you know, no cussing or anything. And I got such an amazing response from them. They said, thank you for bringing this to our attention, because we had no idea how could they? They're, you know, a bunch of white men from Washington, D.C. who decide what's gonna happen. Most of them are ambassadors, you know, highly educated, did amazing things in a international affairs kind of world. So they like, what do you want us to do? So I told them what I want. What I really wanted is to have a whole course on women leaders, because that's what I want to work on. I don't want to talk about more Eisenhowers and other dudes. I don't want to do that. I know about them. It's enough. So let's share about someone who we do know, but we need to formally share. So fast forward, there's a course. And then, so, you know, they presented that, and then, so they said, thank you for bringing this. So anyways, that was one of my, after I read this book, Invisible Women, I was so angry. If you didn't, please do, because it makes you want to do things. And I was so moved, I kind of like, I didn't know where to, I was like, Rebecca, you gotta read this thing. I told everyone, told my son, my husband, so I shared with as many people as possible. She is so incredible on the research she did, and I mean, I'm not gonna get into that. It's an amazing book. So she kind of like make me move my ass and do things. So it's another woman who sort of motivated me. Right, so it was incredible to see the change, and it's small. It's just an email. I didn't like go and, stood in front of the university with a sign. I just emailed them. I think we just need to do things, even if it doesn't work. I mean, sometimes it does. If it doesn't work, but you just get rejected, and which I hate that, but it can happen. So that's one of the sort of my call of action, but there are so many other ways. We, as RCAC, we're engaged with as much as possible. Like there was an Innovate Her All Women Hackathon that was hosted here at Purdue, and we, Laura and I, the whole team, there's Taylor, we went and did the workshop and helped them how to like write the proper resume and how to do this, how to do that. It's just being sort of involved with women and girls and help them understand how to navigate this world is what, and they want to see that there are other grown-ups like me do stuff. So, and that's another way. So you obviously can go volunteer, and there's many ways. I don't need to list. If you go Google how to help women, you'll have plenty of like list of things to do. So. Oh, hey, capstone presentation. What? One more thing. I'm also my grad school. So they gave us topics to present to do for our final like paper presentation, whatever, the capstone. It was a bunch of topics, very needed, much needed, useful, nothing, I'm not against any of them, but it was nothing about women and nothing about how we lived our lives. So, and I kind of messaged them, advisors and whoever decides is, listen, I'm interested in what you have, but I'm really not as interested as in this topic. So my topic, addressing global economic and gender inequity. I wanted to work on that. That's what I'm passionate, that's what I care. Everything else is just gonna be like type, and I don't care. I said, if you really wanna see what I'm capable of, like, let me do this, let me do that. And they kind of like, oh, maybe you could just do this. And I kind of emailed back, I said, I'm not interested. Is there a way for you to kind of give me this opportunity to write what I'm interested in? I think it's way more important than, in my opinion, than any immigration kind of, not against any of that. So we all immigrate all the time. I'm immigrant twice, as a child, as an adult. So, but I want to work on something that is more useful and needed. So that's, and they give me approval. I was like, it's not that hard. You just say yes. So, that was just say yes, no big deal. So that was my topic for my work. So I enjoyed every minute of it. When I was presenting, I was obviously passionate. I don't know if I threw any cuss words here and there. Hopefully not. They were recording, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. Well, by fun, I mean, there was a lot of problems. Like, I mean, I literally told them how bad it is, but it was much needed conversation to share with everyone. No.
That's the
reference.
That's all the references. I have a lot more. We can, if y'all want more, I have 264 of them, but just we some on 3 slides here, so.
Almost 3 slides of references. But that's it, and we could always ask, I mean, you could always ask questions. We should have said that please ask as we go, but ask as you go. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask my question first, because I do have to go to another room to make a call. Well, first of all, thank you for this presentation, talking at this event. It seems like to join your group you have to do some sort of wrestling. I don't know if I'm up for that.
Try. It's fun. You remember, you could always ask. We could say yes.
It's a little too late for me.
Carol, you'll like it.
I do like, if traveling can be part of this, I'm all for it. So I really appreciate, bringing the cultural aspects of this. And I think, a lot of us went through different cultures growing up and experienced how, women were educated or encouraged or not encouraged in different ways. So I think having that, exchange, I think it's really valuable. So I didn't know anything about Azerbaijan or all these other former Soviet countries, but so now I have some picture of that. I really appreciate that. The other thing I was wondering your thoughts about, with these initiatives taking DEI off the, banning of that and stuff. I'm thinking, well, that's not the only way, right? It's really grassroots that, activities that it's ingrained in everybody that's what you do. So probably one way to counter that, right? So we can't, some of us are not in that, we can't change those laws, but how do we contribute in spite of that? I think that's a reality. It's just where things are
Individual contribution, probably what we can focus is more than just trying
That's
to.
what I was thinking. If there are ways that this can be kind of become something that everybody is just feels natural to do, that would be wonderful. I think
I 100% agree with you. I can't go change all the laws in the world, right? But do you mind? I'll answer these and then you can jump in. The example is such super close to what you're saying. When I was 16 years old, I won my first national title, and I was part of national team. And so we have this yearly annual meeting with the Minister of Sports and all his staff and all the coaches, male and female team. And we had a head coach who was a pedophile. And he actually raped several girls on my team, molested almost everyone. He, two of my friends who birthed children from him. So that's a piece of shit that I have not met anyone worse than him. And he was also higher up at in the police department. Whatever the title, I don't know, anywhere, somewhere like who's super powerful. And so he was a head coach of our team. And I knew all that, what he was doing. I despised him, I avoided him. When you know someone, you figure out how to not be in this space, right? Our coach who actually coached, he coached 10 world champs. Like he's exceptional, he was amazing person, but he wasn't a head coach. The whole team was coached by my coach. So we had it was super spontaneous. We're just kind of like, hey, he's asking, all right, so anyone has any comments on today's meeting and anyone has anything to say? I had no idea what I'm getting into. I stood up, I said, yeah, I do, and I'm the youngest on the team. I said, well, that person does these. I didn't name any of my teammates because that's their story. So I stood up and I said what he did and what he does. It's like 100 people. It was silence. I'm a little girl, 16. I'm a girl. First of all, I'm not supposed to speak. And then I did that, right? And then I remember I was crying. I was obviously so emotional. I was so heartbroken. And but I remember knowing that this could completely take all the things I've achieved, which making money, traveling. He could just be take me out completely. But as I mentioned earlier, I'm always ready to lose everything. That's just beginning. But then you can't copy paste that on every person, right? This is just my journey. I can only say what I did. When I finished that, it was so quiet. he was pale, like, I mean, he was like a wall. He was so scared. The minister stood up and he literally said to his help, whoever helps him live his life, he says, make sure this piece of shit is never near any of my female, like my girls. They took him out. Like he was not and he said, who do you want your coach to be? I said, the name. I said, that's my coach who actually made all of us. So he became our head coach. And the coach who was, I'm using that word loosely, the person who was a predator, he was removed from our team completely. But they can't remove him from a police department because we have no sort of authority on that. He didn't go to prison. That's a whole nother, where I'm upset. Like, but he was never part of our team. And I even now, when I travel back to Uzbekistan and I meet with my teammates, they keep talking about how did you, I said, I was like about to like just explode. That's it. Like, it's just, there's no going back for me. That's what I did. But it's so hard to say, don't be scared, right? I was scared. I was also scared. I thought, this is it. This is the end of me. I didn't even start anything. To advise someone, be brave, it's a hard thing to do. What I would say, like, I gravitate towards people who are passionate. Like, if I needed someone, like for example, my husband, like, he is the most amazing human being I ever met. Like, I think without him, I would be like chopping heads and then ask questions, right? So, and then all dead, right? And then I don't get anything done. So I gravitated toward him because he was able to like put things in perspective or bring me down and think like without making any action. So I would say gravitate towards people who make you like better, for lack of better words. To me, I think that's the best thing. I connect with people who are good, not just good to me, good to others. Like, I look, if you somehow are not awesome with other people, but trying to be awesome with me, that's my sign, that's my cue. Bye. I don't have energy to like spend my energy with someone who is doing bad things to others, but wants to be good with me. I can't do that. Because I already know who you are. That's enough for me. So, and don't be polite I remove myself from someone's life really fast. That's easy for me. So gravitate towards people who make you better. And I think that's my advice to people. So, you have any comments?
No, I mean, I think as far as like getting involved, it's just like things in the community, right? Like, it's easy to say, oh, just change the hearts and mind of the people in your community, but like, that's not reality. Like, people who are born and raised with a certain mindset or mentality, it's very difficult to change generations of a thought process. But it is easy to get out in the community and be that person that encourages. You can be the one person that encourages a student or, whatever it is you're involved in, and be somebody, a person of trust, an adult they can trust, that they can rely on to be a safe space for them, be encouraging. And while you're that person for them, you're also lifting them up at the same time and encouraging them to be whatever it is that they want to be, right? Like, being the little bird in the ear saying like, hey, like, have you thought about, Alice, my daughter wants to be a nuclear engineer or something like that. I'm like, that's awesome. What does that mean? She's like, I don't know. It just sounds cool. And I'm like, all right, great. I'm here for you. Let's do it. So yeah,
I agree.
Don't be afraid to get out there.
Yeah, make the changes in your own circle, really. That's kind of what I learned from me. Where if I work with someone, I want to make sure that I'm useful and they can rely on me. And again, I only work with people I enjoy working with. I don't work with people I don't wanna work. It's that simple. If I'm somewhere only because the people who are there, they could be any HPC anything, like XXX organization. If I work with shitty people, I mean, I am out. I only work with people I enjoy. It's very important to me, because then I am way more productive. I enjoy taking these calls, doing these meetings, whatever else outside of work, so I need to like you. I need to like you, that's important to me. Any other questions?
Does anybody online have questions? Unmute. Or they can type it in. I'll say one thing. One of the things that resonated with me earlier in your presentation was talking about, and just now also, is, you know, empowering others, but do it for them. Don't empower them to make you look better, you know, which I think some people do, maybe not intentionally, but they find the benefit, I guess, for themselves. So I think it's important to make sure that you're, you know, you want to help others to help them, not necessarily yourself. So that was just something that was very interesting when you said that. It was like, yeah, that's very true.
That's true. Yep. We've seen people who do the other way around, and I don't see them anymore, so. I've seen them, but they're not, you know, I don't see them anymore.
It's a facade, right? And when somebody is acting a certain way to you or giving you certain opportunities, and they're doing it for insincere reasons, like, a lot of people can see through that, and it gives you this like icky, like,
Yeah,
you know.
we see that, and what I notice that we don't do anything about it, because we want to stay polite, we want to stay cordial, and that
And when
might-
she says we, she doesn't mean her.
Right, I don't mean us, as in me included. We, as most women, we stay kind of polite because we don't want to remove ourselves and make them feel bad. I don't think about that, obviously. It's like, to me, if I see that, that's a sign. Because I don't want to wait for them to do some backstabbing on my end later in life. And then I'm gonna have to go to prison, and I can't do well. I don't like germs.
Get your shovel.
I like my private room, you know, it's like, I can't, there are certain things I just, like, that's it. If I don't do anything bad, it's because I don't wanna go to prison. So. If anybody has any questions, go ahead.
What advice would you give to women as a whole who do struggle with, you know, the social norm of being polite and knowing your place, and what kind of encouragement and advice would you give for them to feel comfortable in their own skin and comfortable in their space and feel empowered to speak their mind?
I can start. I think the advice that I would give is to, like, regardless of what you put out there in the world, know yourself well enough, because we're not all the same, right? Like, Suzanna does a much better job of just being raw and honest with people. Like, I'm not like that. I'm very good at masking. I'm very good at being what people want me to be. And sometimes it is insincere. And a lot of times I smile and nod, because I need to get to the next step with as little drama as possible, right? Like, I don't want drama in my life. I don't want toxicity in my life. So I will smile and nod a lot, and then I'm gonna go along my merry way and do what I'm gonna do. You know, I mean, we've even had this ever-going debate about ghosting people,
Oh,
right? And
any
like,
day, I go someone like in a heartbeat.
she's like, no problem. And I can't do that. I'm like, I need closure, right? And
Why?
so,
Why? I don't need a clue. Why do I need to
She's-
hear
she doesn't-
their views on anything?
I
don't care.
Response.
Just, yeah, no.
But
That's like giving my energy to listen to their bullshit. I'm like, I'm out. We talk about that, even my son has an opinion on this.
but I'm not, right? Because I have allowed myself to be conditioned to please. Like, I'm a people pleaser, and I do always want to be polite. And it's not easy to just say like, don't be like that. It's not realistic. But I think it is like, it is okay to smile and nod and then go do the things you're gonna do. Like, that's fine. Nobody, the question of like morality is so subjective, right? It's not black and white. You need to do the things you can do with so you can sleep at night, right? Be a good human. And yeah, that's it. I mean, it's kind of like a non-answer, I guess, but like, I don't have a problem with like, and doing what I'm gonna do anyways. And it's difficult. It's difficult to have courage when you may not even believe in yourself. I mean, we talk about like imposter syndrome, right? Like, I've had imposter syndrome a lot of my life, and it's difficult to be courageous and stick yourself out there when there is this fear of failure or rejection. Like, it's hard. And sometimes you do have to do it anyways and deal with the consequences. The anxiety about it is often worse than the reality of what happens when you do the things.
Surround yourself with people who you trust. I mean, people who care about you. You know, that's when you can have that sound. You talk to someone, and someone who's not going to be like always on your side in terms of, oh, that's fine. You know, you got to get the real answer. Like, if I'm calling her for real, I don't need her to like fluff things around. I prefer her to tell me that I'm wrong, or whatever that is, or that you're right, or something, whatever. I don't need just someone to please me with the answer. That's like, what did I call you for? I do this to myself. I can say how right I am, just make up some story, right?
Unless I ask if these pants make me look bad, and then you better tell me no.
Any other questions?
You guys answered everything.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you all.